It's Wednesday, the 20th of September 2023. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Jennifer Duke.
Good morning, Michael.
Jen, we have 5 stories to race through in 5 minutes, so we better get cracking. Story number 1 is a big one. The OECD has released its newest global forecasts, and unfortunately, they are not particularly good news. The forecasts warn that the world is heading for an economic slowdown.
So global GDP growth is expected to remain subpar this year at 3% and get even worse next year at 2.7%. Economies around the world are being held back due to rising interest rates to get inflation under control. And inflation is expected to moderate over the rest of this year and next in many countries, but it's still going to remain stubbornly high. And this means that interest rates may need to be kept pretty high across many OECD countries. But the report does also expect that most central banks are at or close to peak.
Now, in your day job, Jen, you are the economics correspondent for Capital Brief. So you would be looking at a report like this and interpreting how it all applies to us here in Australia. Did the report say much about Australia specifically?
So there wasn't any change to the 2023 projections for Australia, but there was a slight 0.1 percentage point reduction for 2024. And this puts us at a sluggish 1.8% growth for 23 and 1.3% for 2024. So bear in mind that last year, the economy expanded 3.7% in real terms. Now, Treasurer Jim Chalmers says that the report shows the global economy is in an unpredictable place right now, and growth is going to slow considerably for the year ahead. Again, it's all about those high interest rates, inflation, and also the slowdown in China hitting the global and local outlook. Chalmers also said that our unemployment rate will likely increase, but the nation is in a solid position in the meantime, and our exports are getting good prices. He also pointed out that the OECD stressed the importance of countries rebuilding their fiscal buffers so that they're in a position to respond effectively to future shocks.
All right, on to story number 2, and unfortunately, it's another bad news story, Jen. It feels like we're on a bit of a run here. We'll have to try and bust out some good news later in the bulletin. But the Bureau of Meteorology has formally declared an El Nino weather pattern, which means we are in for a hotter than average year and hotter than we've had for 3 years.
Yeah, a recent note from our regular guest Diana Musina from AMP said that the actual effects of El Nino on inflation aren't clear-cut, but it could mean higher Australian agricultural prices over the next 3 to 6 months, so that's interesting. Other weather bureaus globally have been announcing an El Nino year there already, so this isn't a huge surprise to markets, but it does mean a bigger risk of bushfires this summer, so it wasn't the best news.
No. Now, on to story number 3. Here's a bit of good news, Jen. That was very convenient. We roll straight into something a little bit more positive. Consumer confidence is improving rapidly for mortgage holders. The latest ANZ Roy Morgan Consumer Confidence Index is showing a few green shoots for the economy.
That's right. There was a solid 2.2-point lift in the index, and ANZ is describing it as baby steps towards improvement. We'll take them, though. We love some baby steps. So most interestingly, there was a significant jump up for mortgage holders. It was their best reading in over 7 months, and that's clearly due to talk of interest rates stabilising and possible cuts next year. Inflation expectations are also trending down. They're now at their lowest level since February 2022, which was before the Russia-Ukraine war began. Overall, the index remains relatively subdued compared to longer-term averages, but these are all good early signs of possible improvements.
Story number 4, and I apologize in advance for some of the terrible puns you're about to hear, but short sellers of US cannabis companies, Jen, are feeling the burn because shares in these pot stocks have been on a high over the past couple of months.
So yes, short sellers are facing $105 million in losses over the past year due to cannabis companies performing strongly. But a report from S3 Partners shows that they're still betting against them. So over the last 30 days, an additional $90 million or so has been spent on the hopes that there's going to be falls. And the MJ Pure Play 100 Index, which actually measures cannabis stocks in the US and Canada, is up 18% so far in September. But they are down about 90% from late 2018 highs. And part of that volatility right now is because the US Drug Enforcement Administration is reviewing the classification that it puts on cannabis.
Okay, last one. Story number 5. Walt Disney Co. is in discussions to sell its Indian streaming and TV business called Disney Star, and it is attracting billionaires to the Magic Castle to discuss an offer.
So this would be a massive media deal in one of the world's fastest growing economies if it gets pulled off. So the details of it are quite patchy. Bloomberg is doing some digging around at the moment and citing unnamed sources due to how private these sorts of high stakes discussions can be. And so far it looks like billionaire Mukesh Ambani's Reliance Industries is one of the companies that's taking an interest. Now the deal could take many different shapes. It could be the entire Disney Star business that gets sold off, some sort of mixture with the streaming service Disney plus Hotstar and other assets packaged together, and it could be a joint venture sale with Disney staying involved, or it could all fall over. So we'll have to keep an eye on this one.
Yes, we will. All right, that's it. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks so much, Michael.
It is Wednesday, the 20th of September, 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed Business News, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also out today is the new episode of How Do They Afford That, which is our sister podcast, all about making your money work a bit harder for you. Today's episode is a special episode, really looking at the nuts and bolts of superannuation. So it's your super health check, everything that you might have wanted to know about super, but maybe we're a bit too afraid to ask. The basics, like how to check what fees you're paying, how to check what your balance is, how to make additional payments, how to check where your money is actually invested. As I said, all the basics. You can find How Do They Afford That wherever you listen to podcasts, and I'll put a link in today's show notes as well. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.